If you or I became immortal, how long do you think we'd be able to effectively perform a memory recall on long-term memories? Well, as it stands right now, the answer is we don't know. There is seemingly no upper limits on the capacity of a long-term memory. However, it's important to note, every time you recall that memory, it changes a little, because your brain encodes memories when they're formed and re-encodes them every time they're recalled, altering them ever so slightly. The brain truly is a wondrous thing, which takes us to Teyvat, where long-lived beings such as gods and dragons seemingly have unga-bunga brains, which are susceptible to the curse of erosion. I'm sure humans do too, but they just don't live long enough for it to take to effect. So what is erosion? Well, there's none better to explain it than someone who has already directly fallen victim to it, Azdaha.
The memories of rocks do not last long. Those memories that survive are rooted in powerful emotion. But as time passes, so these memories fade into obscurity. Erosion is the world's greatest destroyer of memories. Erosion ground Azdaha's consciousness into oblivion. Slowly, he forgot the face of his old friend, and his memories of defending Liyue Harbor disintegrated.
Azdaha describes erosion as a force that causes memories to fade away, and point-blank called it the world's greatest destroyer of memories. He later goes on to call it a natural and unstoppable force of nature. However, later Zhongli actually clues us in on who's responsible for erosion, at least on him.
Even I cannot avoid it. But there is something I understand better than most. When the door opens, it is time to leave. The greater the power, the greater the danger erosion may bring about. The millennia may come and go, but even a stone may tire. Personally sealing away an old friend. This is just one form of erosion I have endured. People abandon and surrender the things they love to pursue the right path. Perhaps this is the erosion imposed on me by the natural order of this world.
Wait, hey, shout out the localization team, y'all motherfuckers. Anyway, they absolutely fucked it. In CN, he says it was imposed on him by the heavenly principles. Yeah, I feel like this is something you want to include, but hey, what do I know? This was after he told us that he too will one day fall victim to erosion, and is part of the reason why he stepped down from being the Geo-Archon of liyue. As to him, erosion is most dangerous when there's immense power at play, ergo Azdaha. I don't think I used ergo right there. I shouldn't. In Azdaha's case, his memories of his contract with Morax and Morax himself completely faded into oblivion, so when humans began mining at the chasm and hurt the ley lines, Azdaha attacked them before being stopped by Morax. Azdaha would then agree to be sealed away, but erosion would strike again, causing him to completely forget he agreed to be sealed away. I can't, man. This guy can't remember shit, bro. I can just imagine him just attacking the miners at the chasm, and Zhongli just pulls up and, Azdaha, you must stop. Who the fuck are you? This all eventually led to Zhongli's second story quest, where he tried to break out from under the tree. This is how erosion can affect one individual person. However, remember the Zhongli clip from earlier. He stated that sealing away a friend was just a form of erosion he has experienced. Zhongli's relationship with erosion is interesting, although he states it's inevitable. As it stands right now, the memory loss aspect of it has seemingly taken no effect on him, as he himself states his memory of sealing Azdaha away 1,000 years ago remains crystal clear. One thing I thought was especially noteworthy in Zhongli's ramble about erosion is a clarification he made between himself as someone from Teyvat and the Traveler as someone, well, not from Teyvat. When speaking about himself, he states this:
That I was a god of mankind. My identity may change, but my eyes will bear witness to the history of humanity.
And when speaking of the Traveler, he says this:
There are many events of ages past, many secrets that lie hidden. They have been eroded by time, forgotten by the people, abandoned. But you are capable of finding them and bringing them into the light. Those who come to witness will witness. Those who are born to remember will remember.
Notice the extra tidbit he adds on about the Traveler being able to remember things. He knows the Traveler is able to remember things for two reasons. One, because the Traveler's, well, not from Teyvat. They are not subject to the natural order of this world, and thus erosion has no effect on them. And two, Irminsul, just fucks with the memories of people from Teyvat, but not of Outlanders, because, well, they're not from Teyvat. Why do I find that funny? While Zhongli might be able to witness things, he knows he might not be able to remember things because of the two things we mentioned earlier. Zhongli also inadvertently tells us why the Curse of Erosion exists. He mentions that there are many secrets of the past that have been eroded by time and forgotten by the people. Events being forgotten by humanity is bound to happen, as if they weren't there to witness it and it wasn't recorded, then people won't bother with it. However, in Teyvat, there are beings that are old enough to witness the past that the heavens want forgotten, and as such, this is where the Curse of Erosion might come from. A desire to ensure that the past is remembered by a selective few, that being just anyone in Celestia. Erosion seemingly affects different species in different ways. In the case of the gods, it seems inconsistent, I won't lie. I mean, Zhongli's been around for over 6,000 years and seems perfectly fine, and we know for a fact he's the oldest of the Archons, and yet he took no preventative measures to combat his own inevitable, how do I say this, coming of erosion. We don't know how old Venti and Ei are, but we know that at the very least they are younger than Zhongli, yet they've gone balls to the wall trying to fight erosion. Ei infamously created a puppet and shut herself in the planet of Euthymia to ward it off, and with Venti it's not confirmed or anything, but given Venti does take long naps when he's not in Mondstadt, which could be for hundreds of years at a time, it could be this is done to stave off erosion. Focalors and Nahida are probably too young for erosion to be a problem for them. In humans' case, the inconsistency is even worse, as we know the ones who have been cursed to have a long lifespan, like Dainsleif and the Hilly Churls in the Chasm, are experiencing erosion. Dane finds it harder and harder to sift through his memories, and the Hilly Churls being in the Chasm are in constant agony from erosion. Yet, in the case of Furina, she has never experienced erosion in the 500 years she was alive. She never mentioned that shit unless I missed it. Neuvilette even commented that her mind is no stronger than that of any other ordinary human. I mean, what the fuck, man? Maybe she's a warrior. We gotta tip it, bro. Maybe she is just a warrior. Moving on to elemental beings, we don't know how long Azdaha has existed for, but it's been a long-ass time. Something about, like, mountains forming on Earth, but he fully succumbed to erosion. Neuvilette is once again too young, despite having inherited the memories of the previous Sovereign of Water, who died long ago. However, the biggest conundrum is the fact that the oldest being we have ever met in Teyvat has seemingly not experienced erosion. Apep, one of the original sovereigns, had no trouble recalling memories from events that predate nearly everything in modern Teyvat, be it the heavenly principles arriving unto Teyvat, or Nibelung returning to the world with forbidden knowledge. She is far older than any of the other beings we've talked about, yet the word erosion doesn't even seem to exist in her vocabulary, and I cannot for the life of me fathom why. Maybe the sovereigns are just built different, who knows. One final point that isn't really related to erosion, but rather Zhongli's relationship to the heavenly principles, is that they seem to have, how do I say this, a lot in common. For instance, one thing I thought was very interesting was how Zhongli spoke about Liyue's future.
Even without a god above, this remains a nation of men. I was once their god. I ought to be here to witness their rise and fall.
He's almost stating as if their fall in the future is some sort of preordained event, which is pretty similar to how Celestia views this issue. I mean, they'd be cheering this sort of sentiment. Oh, absolutely, that city's gonna fall. That's the way of life we made. With the Tiara Frost simply writing, quotes, all prosperity must someday end. Furthermore, his alt voice lines all mention the heavenly principles. Like, how do we drop the ball this badly in translation, guys? Anytime he ults, I just say the voice line myself. The will, what the fuck am I? Say with your chest, nigga. The will of the heavenly principles marches forward. It could be he actually does come from Celestia, but the way he stated that erosion was imposed on him by the heavenly principles makes me think otherwise. Just because imposed how? Like by authority, by force? I could be wrong though. Who knows?